Good morning and welcome back to the Turtle Wins the Race Home-Based Business Podcast. My name is Kara Buntin and I have had a home-based business for, it's been since 1999. 25 years. Okay. Ask me to do the math right now. I'm thinking about this. I've recorded this about 5 times and each time I'm like, wow, that was a little too rambly or that didn't say exactly what I wanted to say. So I'm going to do it again. And this is basically playing off the last 2 weeks of podcasts. So if you have not heard those, please go listen to those, maybe before this one. Okay. There's one about, is there a market for handmade? And the other one is why handmade business isn't any better than large business. And those two things I'm trying to synthesize the main points, but this is a very philosophical discussion. I did an outline because I want to stay on track. And the first thing that I want to say is take my opinions and accept or reject based on your own business. Okay. Nobody knows everything. My opinions are formed based on my years of experience, but it's my experience. So you might have a different experience. Your customers might behave differently than my customers. There's no one person that has all the answers. And I've seen a couple of comments on the videos that I did for the last 2 weeks that are people like, I'm going to reevaluate my entire business. And I'm like, please don't do that on the basis of one thing that you hear on the internet. Okay. But I mean, if you want to give it some thought, that's the purpose of this podcast is just to give you something to think about. It may or may not be relevant to you. You may or may not agree. You may or may not think that it would help you out. I'm trying to be helpful, but like I said, you have to use your own judgment and just, if you don't like what I'm saying, throw it in the dumpster and set it on fire. Fine with me. That's fine. Nobody has, just don't run your business based on the opinions of one person or even 2 people or even 3 people. Take what take your own experience into that and see what works for you. Okay. Now, the reason that I wanted to do this is kind of to wrap up the previous 2 weeks, because I think these topics do go together. And I do think that there is a market for handcrafted. And I'm going to specifically say handcrafted because semantically handmade means different things to people who are consumers than it does to people who are making the handmade thing. When we say handmade, we're thinking I'm taking my years of craftsmanship and experience and talent and putting it into a product. A lot of times when people search for something that's handmade, they're thinking, I want a project I can do with my kids, or I can let my kids do something because it's handmade and we're making it at home. It's not really the same thing. And I think a lot of people who are consumers, when they hear the word handmade, they kind of devalue that in their minds just because of that. And it is a semantic thing. Not everyone is going to react that way, but I think it's something that people do subconsciously. And you can see that when you do keyword research. And I mentioned Pinterest because I think it's a really good example of this, that when people search for handmade on Pinterest, they're not looking for products, they're looking for projects. They're looking for things that they can do themselves. So you just have to understand that. And when I'm saying handmade in here, I'm kind of looking at it from my perspective of something that is more, artisan made, with skill, as opposed to a kindergartner's construction paper project. But a lot of people, when they say handmade, they think of the construction paper project. So you need to be aware of that. Now, that's not true for everyone. Again, this is my opinion. It's one perspective. And somebody said they're going to have to stop using handmade. It's like, you don't have to, but just be aware that people look at that in a different way a lot of times. So you have to be careful. And I'm going to try to stick to this. All right. Understanding that your small business doesn't have, and this is what we talked about last week, it doesn't have the same halo effect of because you're a small home-based business, it's special. A lot of people have small home-based business now because of the pandemic and people working from home. It's kind of a mainstream thing. It's not as unusual as it used to be. So you can't use that as a bargaining chip to try to get people to buy from you because you're better. There's no better anymore. We're just selling things to people, regardless of where you're working. Honestly, I don't think, again, I think this is a perception thing where people say, I love to support small business, but really in the back of their minds, they're like, I'm giving my friend some help. I'm helping her because she needs it. Okay. And there's a difference between supporting small business and helping someone because they need it. And if you understand that immediately, I understand it immediately because I ran into this when I did wedding cakes all the time. And one of the examples I have for this is my neighbor, who's very well meaning, came over, knocked on my door. She had like 6 kids with her, and she says, I want to know if you can do a sheet cake for my kid's birthday next week. And this is when I was doing custom wedding cakes. I had a $150 minimum order amount. I wouldn't do work for under that because it wasn't worth my time based on, I baked everything from scratch. I did that, I wasn't making sheet cakes. And probably in her mind, she's thinking $18, $25 for a sheet cake. That's not worth it for me because for many reasons. So I told her, I said, I don't really do sheet cakes. And she said, oh, okay. I thought I would help you out and give you some business. Okay. Now I know that came from a place of meaning well, but I think that that's what people, and this was years ago. This was like maybe 12 years ago. It was a long time. I think that that's basically what people have kind of always had, this undercurrent of thinking home-based businesses need help. Because it's impossible, they just don't earn money and they need help. Okay, I don't need to build business on that. And like I said, I understand that she meant well. I was not offended by it, but I kind of was like, oh yeah, I don't do sheet cakes. Sorry. And she's like, oh, okay. And if I had told her, sure, I'll do it, but it's $150 minimum, she would have passed out. So, and I did that for some people and they did pay me, because they had bought my wedding cakes and now they're doing a baby shower or whatever. And yeah. So anyway, but I think that there has always been that undercurrent of people thinking, oh, support small business. But then in the back of their minds, they're like, because they desperately need the help and they're willing to do things that, I can get a lot of custom stuff for very low price. And I think we still run into that today. Now, I think that perception is changing as people have started trying to run their own small businesses from home, and they know that it's not that easy, but it's still there. And like I said, people like to say that they support small business, but really when it comes down to it, they want to work with someone who is established and has a reputation and has reviews online. There's all kinds of things that roll into that, and that's the trust part. And another example of this comes up when I had a customer, I think I might have said this before. I had a customer when I was doing wedding cakes who came to my office. I rented an office for consultations and for tasting appointments because it was hard bringing people here, and it was disruptive for everyone else. So I rented this office. I would go over there once or twice a week. I would have tasting appointments. And this client came in and she said, yeah, I went over to this other business, and I knew this woman because she also worked from home. And she said, yeah, I pulled up for the appointment and it was outside her house, and I realized it was her house. So I just drove away because I don't want to work with someone who doesn't, who works from home. I don't want to work with someone like that. And I was sitting there thinking, wow, you're kind of working with me right now, but because I had an office, it gives a perception of more authority and it's more trustworthy. I don't know. That's just how people think. So I want people to understand as I'm doing these series. Number one, yes, this is my opinion, but in my experience, I have seen that people will say, I want handmade. I want small business. I want to support small business. But really in the back of their minds, there's other reasons for that, and they might not really believe it. And they might just want to work with a big business because it feels more secure, it feels more established, whatever the reason. Now, I think another piece of this is, and this is the philosophical part of it, right? With the handmade, artisan, it's just the wording that you use is important. But you need to figure out for yourself, how do you want to operate in the world and with your business in the world? And I was watching a video today, and the guy that, oh my God, at one point I thought, what a slime bag. I'm listening to this guy talk. And he was talking about, I'm not even going to say what he was talking about. He was talking about a facet of business, but just the way he was presenting it was so formulaic and calculated. and slimy. And he was he was a fast talker. Like, I'm here, I'm going to sell you something, and I did not like it. So you have to decide how you want to operate your business. Do you want, what's your brand, right? What is your branding? This kind of goes to your branding. And how you want to operate your business will determine how you present yourself and your business to the world. What is your branding? It is branding, okay? But if you don't want to be perceived as a small home-based business that needs help, and I don't think that's a good thing, then you do need to think about presenting yourself in a way and that makes people trust and respect you as a business. And that is where the language comes in. And I'd said it like 2 weeks ago, I said, don't put made with love on things. I'm going to, I do have that on my list, so I'm not going to skip ahead, but don't say that. The language matters. How you present yourself matters. How you present your branding matters. It all matters. Because if you present a business that looks like you don't take yourself seriously, then nobody else will. If you don't take your business seriously, nobody else is going to. Okay. And if I had said, sure, I'll make you a sheet cake for $20, then I have just not taken myself seriously. Okay. Unless I just wanted to do her a favor, which I didn't, because I don't know, I don't know her that well. And my rule, I will say my rule when I was doing cakes is, and you could use this for yourself when people ask for free stuff or big discounts because they're your friend. I say I do free things for the people who I gave birth to and the people who gave birth to me. So that's a limited pool. So you can use that. I only do friends and family discounts to people who gave birth to me and to people who I gave birth to. Okay. And if you're a guy, sorry. All right. You don't have to ever give a discount that way though. Okay. This is on my outline. Specifically, handmade businesses. So if you work from home and you are making your own products, and this goes back to the branding and how you present yourself, we need to be really careful because of the general dismissive attitude toward handmade and homemade. Okay, homemade is even a worse word than handmade when we're talking about semantically describing what you do. Because people do say they respect, they want a homemade flavor in their food. And that's why all the marketing from these big corporations says, tastes like homemade, okay? That's a nostalgia thing. People like nostalgia. But they don't want to go and spend a lot of money for a meal that tastes homemade. They want something better. They want something better, okay? Because people say they love homemade, but that's because it is nostalgic and it reminds them of their grandmother, reminds them of your mom, right? Comfort food, that kind of. I think comfort food is a really good example of this. And it is a paradox because people say they respect it, they want it, but they really don't. It's kind of like oh, that's so cute, that's so nostalgic, whatever. And it's the same thing with handmade. And people do use the word handmade to mean things that they can make. And I was talking to my friend once who she claims that she doesn't have a creative bone in her body. I don't think so. Okay. I think that she knows how to do some things that are creative, but she says, you'll point out, and this is talking about me, that I would say, oh my God, look at this ugly cake. It's horrible. And she says, I look at that and I think, I can't do that. That's great. And I'm looking at it, picking the flaws apart, right? So it's a different perspective. But I think when people say handmade, they're not thinking of handcrafted or artisan made. They're thinking of things that they can make themselves. And homemade, they're thinking of grandma cooking at home. And I refer to this as the little lady phenomena of business. People don't take little lady businesses seriously. Okay. And I got this throughout the time I was doing wedding cakes, that until you start showing that you're a professional and until you have an office that you rent, until you have branding, until you have a lot of reviews online, until you have that social proof and you have all this to back you up, people don't take you seriously because they think, oh, she's having so much fun doing this little business out of her house. It's so cute. That's dismissive. Okay. You don't want that opinion to be foisted upon you. And a good example of this, and this actually was true, that when all those cake decorating shows started coming out, and this, I would say this is probably about 10 years ago, I don't know exactly, but on Food Channel had all kinds of cake decorating series about people who decorate cakes. And everybody decided that they were going to be a cake decorator. So they all started, I have some business cards I printed on my home printer and I'm just going to hand them out. And there was a woman that came, I was teaching a cake decorating class at a commercial kitchen space. It was one of those like take cooking classes kind of thing. So I was doing a cake decorating class. This woman showed up and she lived nearby and she was talking about how she was starting this cool business. And the owner of the place was kind of off in another part of the room. And when everybody left, he said, yeah, she's going to be out of business in about 3 months because she'll figure out that it's work. And he said, she's just one of these people that wants to have fun and thinks it's fun and cute. And I was like, yeah, and yes, but yes, she was, because she realized that you actually have to have business licenses and food inspections and all this kind of stuff at that time to do cakes. And it was a business. You had to run it like a business. And she wasn't, and she didn't want to. So that's the reason people don't take little lady businesses seriously. You don't want that to be the perception of your business, is a little lady. It's so cute, so cute. People patting you on the head. Oh, that's so cute. You want to do cakes. That's cute. Okay. And again, on my outline, it says, on one hand, people think they respect handmade because it's artist. They're thinking I respect artisan. Okay. But then at the same time, the word handmade goes back to them being able to make it themselves. And it is diminishing, and it makes people think that you're a little lady business. And the other example I have for this, and you're going to see this everywhere now that I have said it, is the cupcake lady. Okay. Whenever there is a commercial about a woman that wants to start a business, it's always a freaking cupcake business. It drives me nuts. And just to set the record straight, I did not do cupcakes when I did wedding cakes. I think I did one wedding cake cupcake thing, and it was a nightmare. I hate cupcakes. I hate baking them. I hate them. They're a pain in the butt. The people at the venue love them because they don't have to cut the cake. Everybody just comes up and snatches them up. I did not enjoy setting them all up. I did not enjoy baking them. I did not enjoy transporting all the cupcakes. Think about that. How many cupcakes do you have to take for a wedding cake? That's a lot. I did not enjoy it. I don't like cupcakes. I don't like eating with my hands. And no. Okay, so they always have the cupcake lady on these commercials, and it drives me nuts because it's a little lady business. It's like, look, we've helped her live her dream. Her dream is to make cupcakes. And it's always some woman with a pink apron and a plate of cupcakes. And you're going to see this everywhere from now on, and it's going to make you squirm. I just notice it because it's cupcakes and I hate them. Okay. So the cupcake lady is kind of representative of the little lady business, or she could be a cupcake boss, and she's standing there with her arms crossed like this, but there's a whisk here, like she's holding a whisk. Can you picture it? Can you picture it in your mind? I bet you can, because it's everywhere. And I find that really insulting. I find it insulting. I find it discouraging, but that's kind of what people think about home businesses and small business. When it comes right down to it, there's a lot of lip service paid to respecting and supporting small business, but it doesn't really translate all the time. So as small businesses, we need to be very careful about how we present ourselves. And like I said, that includes the language that we use. It includes our branding. It includes how you present yourself online. And you need to present yourself in the way that you want to. Okay. I'm not saying that you have to do things a certain way, but there are some things that are or should be consistent, across every business. And I have a list of the things that I think those are right here. Okay. So in general, people don't want to see your dirty laundry. Okay. Meaning they don't want to hear about your sad life. They don't want to hear about the pain that you're going through with this or whatever. There are businesses that I see people all the time talking about this, that, or the other. And it gets wrapped up with your brand, and that's not good, because that people will buy from you maybe once or twice for sympathy, but that's not how you build a good customer base. It's going to come back to you because they respect your business. They're doing it from sympathy, and they're doing it to help you out. You shouldn't try to get people to buy from you based on sympathy or just because they want you to help, or you want them to help you out. Okay, because people get tired of that real quick. That's not going to keep them around. The next thing, people think that they think that they want, quote unquote, authentic. Okay, But then they say that they like a natural makeup look, like the Kardashians have. And I've actually seen people say that, okay? They're like, yeah, I like a natural, I like a natural makeup, like the Kardashians. And I'm like, there's what? But in general, people think that they like your business, authentic. And you should do that to a certain, you shouldn't go and be something that you're not. Okay. But this goes back to thinking about how you want to present yourself and your business to the world, because that's what you're doing when you're running an online business. And you need to be authentic for yourself, but just understand that people don't want to see everything. They don't want to see all the difficulties. They don't want to see the dirty laundry, the warts. They don't want to see everything. So you have to be judicious about what you show and reveal about your business online. It doesn't mean you have to lie and fake and just show everything that's always happy, because that gets tiring too. But it is just something that people say we want authentic, but they think that makeup look is authentic. It's not. Okay. I don't know if I'm telling you that it's not. They wear a lot of makeup. In case you weren't sure, I hate to break it, but the Kardashians wear a lot of makeup. Just saying. Okay. The next point is that people say that they support small business. And I said this, there's a lot of lip service about that. Shop small, shop small. But the truth is that 99% of the time, they're going to Amazon. All right. So the hard part is to try to get the people who really are interested in artisan work or in authentic artwork or whatever, however you want to phrase it. That's your job. That's your job to figure out, and there's no one way to do this. Figure out how to connect to those people online. I have ways that I would advise you to do it, but I'm not going to, because I think that everybody needs to do it in a different way. I will say that I did a video a while back about marketing. I think the thumbnail said market like it's 1999. You should all go watch that if you haven't, because that goes back to this whole thing. And I've been thinking about this for a long time, and I posted that quite a while ago. But I think that we really do need to make more of an effort to actually talk to people. And I know that selling online is a good way to not have to do that. But as the online market is flooded with more Temu crap, people are they're getting more reluctant, and they don't believe it when you say that things are made by hand. They don't believe it. I mean, I get messages saying, are these really cut out? Do you make them? And I know that other people get the same types of messages because people have been ripped off. There's a lot more rip-offs. As more people move online to sell, there are a lot more rip-offs going on. And I think part of the weird thing about this is that e-commerce is really not that old. And until probably, I think I looked it up, and I think Amazon didn't turn a profit until like 2001, and they weren't around for that much longer before that. So let's say like in the last 20 years, people have really started buying online, and a lot of people still don't shop online because they don't trust it. So as more people moved online during the pandemic, then more people had to shop online, and they figured, oh, it's kind of convenient, or they thought, I prefer to shop in person. And opinions will change over time, but e-commerce is really not that old. So a lot of the things that we think about e-commerce are not that old, but it's evolving so quickly that we think, oh, well, I thought I did this 6 years ago, but what worked 6 years ago might not work now. It just changes so fast. So people say that they want to support small. And the support small, like shop small business, isn't that old either. I looked all these dates up, but I can't remember. I don't know. But you can look it up if you want. It's not that old. And people think they want to support small business, but they prefer to shop on Amazon because they trust it. That's why it's hard to get people to shop on your website versus Etsy, because Etsy is more of a household name than your website will be. And people trust it because it's a larger website. And it's hard to move people off of Etsy to your website, but you can do it if you try hard enough. All right. So basically, it's all a balance. You have to decide, how do you want to show up? You have to be able to figure out how to present yourself to the right people. And this is just marketing. It's just all marketing. And you don't want to give people reason to think that you're less professional just because you work from home. it's just it's a big mess. But I wanted to clarify. And again, I give advice based on keeping a professional outlook and looking professional so that people trust you. If you want to take a completely different approach because that works better for your business and your customers, fine with me. Perfectly fine with me. And don't take the advice of one person and change your whole business model for it. That's not a good approach, because then someone else is going to come along and you're going to go, oh, I need to do that. Really stop and look at your numbers. Look at the numbers. Don't look at what people tell you. Look at the numbers. What works? What have you done in the past that worked? Do more of that. See if it works again. And I really think that everybody should watch the shop, Market Like It's $19.99. I think it's going to be up here. I'll put that video up here. Oh, maybe it's down here. I think they're down. I put those videos in the bottom. I'm going to do that right now. Give this video a thumbs up and leave me any comments. I've been enjoying reading all your comments in the last couple weeks, and I will talk to you all later.